Awaken your witchy potential. Transform your life with spiritual magic. Merry meet everyone, I'm Witch Hazel, and today I am highlighting the spiritual part of magic and the effect it can have on the depth and power of your magical craft. So to begin with, the biggest problem I've had with witchcraft as a spiritual pursuit is the fact that although the spiritual aspect is mentioned, it's not the main focus. This is not unique to witchcraft, actually. I've seen the same in all of the religions I explored before deciding on actively taking up witchcraft. It's this thing of learning about and studying all the holidays, traditions, and activities, but relegating the development of any deeper spiritual connections to a footnote in the practice, kind of a personal thing. And just so there's no confusion, I'm referencing both witchcraft and any of the associated pagan religions. So as a kid, I remember thumbing through my mom's books on witchcraft that were published in the 60s and 70s. There was lots of information about rituals, covens, plenty of pictures of naked people lighting candles, info about the Wheel of the Year, people gazing at cauldrons, but next to no mention of anything internal. No emotions, no descriptions of the sensations of witchcraft. When you act out your spiritual practice with an active connection to that spirit, as we should do in any spirituality or religion, there's a feeling, right? I'm pretty sure about this because it is mentioned by some of the spiritual speakers I've read. Yogananda in particular describes it as a feeling of intense joy. In my own experience, those times I feel most connected with what I'm doing are usually accompanied by tingling hands or scalp. And yet, I don't recall ever hearing mention of this in my early days as a witch. My first book on witchcraft, a gift from my mother, was Scott Cunningham's Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner. In it, the author does speak about the importance of raising energy, but all examples are through gestures and movement, and it gives no indication of how we're supposed to know that the energy we want is raised. He does mention the importance of meditation, but he goes straight from the instructions of sit in a chair, relax, to now open your consciousness. Well, what exactly does that feel like? What does that mean? Okay, I get that the feelings are very individualized, but at least give an example I can go off of. The same goes for all of the subsequent study that I've done. Authors will focus on ritual, spell casting, they'll mention meditation or raising energy, maybe even give an exercise to try, but they never explain what I'm supposed to feel or how to know if I've successfully accomplished the goal. This is frustrating because I always thought I should feel something obviously different from my everyday experience, but I never did, no matter what the exercise. So I also want to point out here that I was never taught about the idea of a life path or purpose. When we talked about choosing a path, it was deciding what religious route we wanted to take. So in the case of witches, that's Wicca, Druid, Heathen, Dianistic, etc., etc. I wouldn't figure out until much later that none of that matters. The path I need to discern is my life path, my greater purpose. Once I understand that, I can use whatever spiritual or religious path I feel like at the moment to enhance it. So if you haven't taken any time yet to contemplate your greater purpose in life, please consider picking up my reference materials linked below. One of the items is a workbook specifically geared toward helping you hash out your calling. Don't lose years wandering in circles like I did. And once you've got those materials on hand, subscribe to the channel so you can get all of my updates on both the material witchy side of things and the information on how to develop the spiritual side of things. Speaking of, let's get back to the story. So, it wasn't until a few years later when I ran across Christopher Penczak's Temple series of books, particularly The Inner Temple of Witchcraft, that I finally found a witch willing to devote an entire book to trying to explain the inner workings or spiritual side of witchcraft. Somewhere around this time, I was also gifted a copy of Autobiography of a Yogi from my uncle. This book mentioned the emotional process and transformation brought about by meditation and introduced me to early 20th century authors who would also focus on this theme. So, what I'm saying is, the vast majority of my spiritual knowledge and understanding did not come from my pagan resources, but from spiritualists. This can cause a serious gap in knowledge for any witches or other pagans who do not search outside of their pagan practice for information. In this day and age, I think the spiritual side of things is becoming more present and integrated in all aspects of life, but the need for it still may not be obvious, especially for those of us in Western cultures unaccustomed to spiritual practice of any kind. Therefore, I'm taking it upon myself to ensure you that a sound spiritual practice, a divine connection you can feel in whatever way you feel it, whether it's the electric tingling, a sense of overwhelming joy or warmth around your heart, whatever it may be, is vital. Once you find and understand the sensations that signify divine connection to you, you won't have any doubt about your magical work or the effectiveness of rituals or spells. You will have the certainty of success simply by feeling the sensation of divine connection and channeling it, I like to do that, into being through your intent. Sorry, I got off course there. Whatever other gestures or things you want to tack onto it can add emphasis, but aren't necessary. This is why I have experienced both going through an intricate spell in finite detail with no result, and rushing through a last-minute sloppy spell with great success. The details didn't matter. It was the feeling that made the difference. If you can begin now to improve your ability to connect to the divine through activities like meditation, you will see an almost instant significant uptick in your success with witchcraft. And here's how I personally intend to help you on that front. First, I've got additional materials coming your way to help with developing a strong intuition. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. You don't miss that announcement. Second, I'm going to start sharing my favorite authors and books with you on this theme or on these themes, starting now. You'll find all the authors and books I've mentioned today listed in the description. I've found that each of them I can think of 4 authors off the top of my head actually say essentially the exact same thing, but they all use different verbiage. I want to present options to you because that's going to play into another segment of strengthening your craft, which is understanding how you learn. But I'll get into that in another video. Trust me, once you start in on this, you will be amazed at how enjoyable your craft will become. If you're in a space of discouragement, like I was, improving the spiritual side of your craft will have an instant effect. It will make spell casting fun again because you have renewed confidence that the spell will work. It will make ritual more significant because it will feel more like an actual interaction with deity instead of play acting. You'll also have an amazing boost in confidence as you realize that in a pinch, you don't need anything but yourself. To call in and direct divine energy for change, that's all you need. Your viewpoint will change from being the tool or the manipulator of tools to being a living, breathing extension of the divine. Imagine that. You and your gods, thick as thieves, the world is your oyster, and there's literally no boundary to all the great things that you will be able to accomplish. Is that not worth putting in some extra effort? I think it is. Please let me know in the comments if you've had a similar experience of disconnect along your journey and what tips you have for closing the gap. So thanks very much for joining me today, and until the next time, everyone, blessed be.